I was giving a talk like this in Washington, and the other speaker was Hillary Clinton, senator from New York, gearing up to run for president the first time in 2008. And so after the speeches, we just started chatting, and she said, "Oh, I quote from one of your books on Bush so often in speeches. I didn't tonight because you were here, but normally it's part of my routine. And in fact, I do it so often, I think I should pay you royalties." And I stupidly said no rather than how much. Well, what is it you quote? So it's the second book, Plan of Attack, about how Bush decided to go to war in Iraq. And it's the last line. And I'd interviewed Bush, interestingly enough, for hours, and I know I interviewed George W. Bush as president more than any journalist for each of the three of the books for at least 3 hours. And for the one on how he decided to go to war in Iraq, at the end of the interview, the second interview for that book, he's standing in the Oval Office with his hands in his pockets. And I just asked, how do you think history will judge your Iraq war? And as only Bush could do, he kind of took his hands out of his pocket, threw them in the air, and said, "History, we won't know. We'll all be dead." Comforting thought. I remember going home, and my wife asked about what happened. I said, "I think he answered all the questions." But at the end, he said, he got off this line about history we won't know, we'll all be dead. And so she said, "Oh, that's great. That's the last line of the book." And last lines are hard to find. And it is the last line of the book. So I asked Senator Clinton, why do you quote that? And he said, "Oh, well, you can't think and talk like that and be president of the United States. George Bush is a fatalist, somebody who believes things are kind of predetermined and you kind of leave it up to history." And I remember thinking, if she ever became president and was in the Oval Office and somebody asked, "How do you think history is going to judge your big decision?" her answer would be, "I will write it," which I'm sure she would. But then the question, well, so George Bush is a fatalist, you think? Lincoln was a fatalist. And then she really got intense, kind of lamp-throwing intense, to be honest with you, and started pounding her fist into her hand. She said, "Look, I'm telling you, you cannot think and talk like that and be president of the United States," kind of passivity. And I pushed back again. She said, "Look, I'm telling you, George Washington would never think and talk like that. Thomas Jefferson would never think and talk like that. Bill would never think and talk like that." And I remember thinking, the new Mount Rushmore, Washington, Jefferson, Bill, maybe Hillary, maybe Chelsea. And I was going to say something, but I caught myself because the thought was, we won't know. We'll all be dead.